Homeless girl spent her last $5 helping mafia boss. Next day, 100 bodyguards brought a life-changing gift. The man collapsed in front of her. Expensive suit, bloodless face, bodyguards reaching for their guns. And Virginia Hill only had $5 left to her name. Every instinct screamed to walk away. Instead, she ran toward danger, not knowing she'd just saved the most feared mafia boss in New York, and that by tomorrow, 100 men in black suits would be at her door asking what kind of angel saves a monster. But when the mafia shows up to repay mercy, do they bring a gift or a grave? Before we begin, please take a moment to support this channel by clicking the like, share, and subscribe button so you can keep enjoying awesome stories like this. Thank you. Virginia Hill stood on the corner of Mulberry Street in Little Italy, staring at 5 crumpled dollar bills in her frozen hand. Her last $5, 3 days without a real meal. The smell of fresh bread from Ferrara Bakery across the street made her stomach twist with hunger. She could almost taste the warm cannoli she'd been dreaming about all day, the ones that cost exactly $4.75. Then she heard the sound. A man gasping for air. A well-dressed man in an expensive cashmere overcoat stumbled past her, clutching his chest. His face went deathly pale. He was dying right there on the sidewalk, and the 2 men in dark suits rushing toward him looked more terrified than helpful. "Walk away, girl," one of them warned, his hand moving inside his jacket. "This isn't your business." Virginia looked at the dying man, then at her $5. She thought about eating for the first time in 3 days, finally tasting something warm, something real. But she couldn't just walk away. She saw something in his eyes, the same look her father had before he died in her arms when she was 12. Terror, desperation, the knowledge that death was coming. She ran across the street to the 24-hour pharmacy, slammed her $5 on the counter, and bought aspirin and water. She saved his life without knowing who he was. What Virginia didn't know, that choice would change everything. Because the next morning, 100 bodyguards in black suits rolled up to her cardboard shelter under the Manhattan Bridge. Let me take you back to the morning before that street corner, before everything changed. Virginia's eyes opened at 5:30 a.m. like they did every single morning. Not because of an alarm. She didn't have a phone that worked. Her body just knew when it was time to move before the police started their rounds, before the sanitation trucks came through, before the city woke up and remembered to be cruel to people like her. She was lying under the Manhattan Bridge in a cardboard shelter she'd built from boxes she'd found behind a furniture store. The November cold had seeped through every layer. 2 thin blankets, her only jacket, the newspapers she'd stuffed around herself for insulation. Her breath came out in visible clouds. She sat up slowly, her back screaming in protest. 19 years old, and her body felt 70. That's what a year on the streets does to you. She reached for her backpack, the only thing in the world that was truly hers. Inside, 1 torn blanket that used to be cream-colored, now gray with dirt. 3 photographs in a plastic bag, her parents before the accident, smiling at a beach somewhere, looking like people who believed the world was good. A broken cell phone with no service that she kept because it had the last voicemail her mother ever left her. And 5 crumpled dollar bills. $5. She'd spent 6 hours yesterday panhandling near Washington Square Park in the freezing cold. Most people walked past like she was invisible. Some muttered about getting a job. 1 man spit near her feet. A few kind souls dropped quarters and dimes into her cup. By the time the sun set, she'd made $5. $5. She'd been dreaming about those cannolis from Ferrara Bakery for 3 days. $4.75. She could almost taste the sweet ricotta filling, the crispy shell, the dusting of powdered sugar. It would be the first real food she'd eaten since Monday, when someone had left half a sandwich on a park bench. Virginia carefully folded the bills and tucked them into her jacket pocket. Then she rolled up her blankets, broke down her cardboard shelter, and hid everything behind a concrete pillar. If she left it up during the day, someone would destroy it or take it. That's how it worked down here. She walked to St. Anthony's Church for the breakfast distribution. They served from 6 to 7 a.m. First come, first served. She got there at 6:15. The line was already stretched around the block. By the time she reached the front, they'd run out of food. Again. "Sorry, honey," the volunteer said, genuine sympathy in her eyes. "Come back tomorrow. Earlier." Virginia nodded and walked away, her empty stomach cramping. This was life now, counting every dollar, every bite, every warm place to sit, praying that nothing unexpected happened because there was no cushion, no safety net, nothing to fall back on. Just survival, one frozen day at a time. But Virginia didn't complain. She'd learned a long time ago that complaining didn't change anything. Her grandmother, dead now 6 years, had raised her with one simple rule after Virginia's parents died. Kindness costs nothing, baby. And sometimes it's the only thing we have left to give. So Virginia said good morning to other homeless people, even when she felt dead inside. She helped an elderly woman carry her shopping bags up subway stairs, even though her own arms ached. She gave a teenager her spot in a warm subway car, even though she was freezing. She kept a mental list of things to be grateful for. She wasn't sick. She wasn't being hurt. She was alive. That Tuesday started like every other day. She spent the morning looking for bottles and cans to recycle. Found 12. Made 60 cents. She sat outside a coffee shop and asked for spare change. Made $1.40 in 3 hours before the manager chased her away. She walked to the public library and spent 2 hours in the bathroom, washing herself in the sink with paper towels and hand soap, trying to feel human, trying to remember what it was like to be clean. By 4 p.m., she'd made it back to Washington Square Park. She set up her spot, a piece of cardboard to sit on, her empty coffee cup in front of her. She didn't have a sign. She tried that once. Someone kicked it and told her to get a job. She just sat there, invisible, while the world walked past. A mother pulled her child away when the little girl tried to give Virginia a cookie. "Don't talk to those people," the mother hissed, loud enough for Virginia to hear. "They're all on drugs." A businessman in a suit dropped $1 in her cup without looking at her. Not even a glance. Like she was a parking meter, not a person. A college girl stopped, met Virginia's eyes, and smiled. "I'm sorry," she said. "I don't have any cash, but I hope your day gets better." It was the kindest thing anyone had said to Virginia in a week. By 8 p.m., Virginia had made $4. She walked to a bodega and bought a bag of chips and a bottle of water. $2.50. That left her with $1.50. She needed more. She went back to the park, sat in the cold darkness, and panhandled for 3 more hours. Finally, at 11 p.m., a young couple stopped. "Here," the woman said, handing Virginia a $5 bill. "Please, get yourself something warm to eat." Virginia stared at the money like it was gold. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Thank you so much." The couple walked away, and Virginia held that $5 bill in her shaking hands. $5, plus the $1.50 she had left. That made $6.50 total. Enough for those cannolis. Enough to feel full for the first time in 3 days. Enough to remember what it felt like to be satisfied instead of starving. She stood up, packed her cardboard and cup, and started walking toward Little Italy, toward Ferrara Bakery, toward food. It was 11:30 p.m. by the time she reached Mulberry Street. The bakery was still open, one of the few places that stayed open late for the restaurant workers and night shift crowds. Virginia stood outside the window, staring at the cannolis behind the glass. Her mouth watered. Her stomach cramped with hunger so intense it made her dizzy. She pulled out her money. $6.50. She could get a cannoli and still have $1.75 left over. Maybe save it. Maybe by breakfast tomorrow. She was reaching for the door handle when she heard it. A sound that stopped her cold. A man gasping for air. She turned and saw him, maybe 60 years old, distinguished looking, wearing a coat that probably cost more than she'd made in the entire past year. He was stumbling near a black SUV parked at the curb. 2 younger men in suits were running toward him, shouting into phones. The man grabbed his chest. His face twisted in agony. His legs gave out. He collapsed against the bakery window, right next to where Virginia was standing. One of the suited men saw her watching. His hand moved inside his jacket, toward a gun, she realized with ice-cold clarity. "Walk away, girl," he said, his voice hard. "This isn't your business. You don't want to be part of this." Virginia looked at the dying man. His eyes found hers. And in that moment, she saw her father. She saw him lying on the construction site after the scaffolding collapsed, his chest crushed, gasping for air, looking at 12-year-old Virginia with the same desperate plea. "Help me. Please. I don't want to die." She'd been too young to save him then. But she wasn't too young now. Every instinct screamed at her to walk away. The men in suits were dangerous. She could see it in their eyes, their stance, the way their hands hovered near their jackets. The man on the ground was clearly someone important, someone powerful, someone involved in things she didn't want to know about. This wasn't her problem. She had her own survival to worry about. She was starving. She was freezing. She was barely holding on. But then she heard it again, that terrible sound of someone drowning on dry land, gasping for air that wouldn't come. The man's lips were turning blue. Virginia looked at the $6.50 in her hand. Her last money. Her food. Her survival. Then she looked at the dying man. "Hey," she shouted toward the pharmacy across the street. "Hey, someone call 911. The two suited men tried to grab her, but she was faster. She sprinted across Mulberry Street, her worn-out sneakers slapping against the cold pavement. She burst into the pharmacy, startling the clerk. "Aspirin. I need aspirin. And water. Fast." The clerk, a tired-looking woman in her 50s, moved slowly, reaching for a small bottle of aspirin and a bottle of water. "How much?" Virginia asked, her heart pounding. $4.89. Virginia slammed her $6.50 on the counter, grabbed the items, and ran back outside. The suited men tried to block her, but she pushed through them, dropping to her knees beside the dying man. His eyes were glazing over. His chest had stopped moving. "No," Virginia whispered. "No, no, no. Stay with me." She tore open the aspirin bottle with shaking hands, forcing a pill into his mouth. She opened the water bottle, lifted his head, and helped him swallow. "Breathe," she whispered, one hand on his chest. "Just breathe. Stay with me. Please." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the man gasped, a huge shuddering breath. His eyes focused on her face. Color started returning to his lips. "That's it," Virginia said, tears streaming down her face. "Just breathe." Sirens filled the air. The ambulance was coming. The man grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. His eyes locked onto hers. "What's your name?" he rasped in an accent she couldn't place. "Italian, maybe." "Virginia. Virginia Hill." "Virginia." He struggled to speak, his breath coming in painful gasps. "I won't forget." The paramedics arrived, pushing Virginia aside. They loaded him onto a stretcher, working quickly, efficiently. One of them looked at the aspirin bottle in Virginia's hand. "You gave him this?" She nodded. "You probably saved his life." Then they were gone, the ambulance speeding away with sirens wailing. The two suited men jumped into the SUV and followed. Virginia stood alone on the empty sidewalk. The pharmacy clerk came outside. "Miss? Your change." She handed Virginia $1.61. Virginia stared at it. The only money she had left in the world. $1.61. She looked at Ferrara Bakery, still open, the cannolis still sitting behind the glass. $4.75. She couldn't afford them anymore. She'd spent her last money saving a stranger's life. Virginia started laughing. Not because it was funny, because it was absurd. She'd had $6.50. She'd been 3 minutes away from eating for the first time in 3 days. And now she had $1.61 and an empty stomach and no idea who she'd just saved or if it even mattered. The laughter turned to tears. She walked back to her spot under the Manhattan Bridge, climbed into her cardboard shelter, and cried herself to sleep. She had no idea that tomorrow morning, her entire world would explode. She had no idea that the man she'd saved was Vito Genovese, one of the most powerful and feared organized crime bosses in New York. She had no idea that by tomorrow night, she'd be sleeping in a luxury apartment in the West Village. She had no idea that her life, the one where she was invisible, powerless, forgotten, was over. Because when Virginia Hill spent her last $5 on a dying stranger without asking for anything in return, without even knowing his name, she did something that would ripple through the city like a stone thrown into still water. She reminded a monster that he was human. And monsters never forget their debts. But to understand why that one choice would change everything, you need to understand where Virginia came from. You need to know how a 19-year-old girl ends up sleeping under a bridge in November, counting crumpled dollar bills like they're diamonds. You need to know what led her to that corner of Mulberry Street, to that moment of impossible choice, to that decision that would define the rest of her life. So let me take you back further. Back to before the streets. Back to when Virginia Hill had a home, a family, a future. Back to the day everything fell apart. Virginia woke to the sound of engines. Lots of engines. At first, she thought she was dreaming. But the ground beneath her cardboard shelter was vibrating. Car doors slamming. Footsteps. Dozens of them. Heavy and synchronized. She opened her eyes and froze. Black SUVs. Everywhere. At least 20 of them, forming a perfect perimeter around the homeless encampment under the Manhattan Bridge. Men in dark suits stood in military formation, silent and still, like soldiers preparing for war. Other homeless people were already scattering, running in every direction. Someone screamed, "It's a raid. ICE, run." Virginia tried to move, but her body wouldn't cooperate. She was trapped in her cardboard shelter, paralyzed with fear. Then one of them moved. A man in a perfectly tailored Navy suit stepped forward. He was probably 65, silver hair slicked back, wearing gold cufflinks that caught the morning light. He carried a leather briefcase. Behind him, she counted what looked like 100 bodyguards. The silver-haired man walked directly toward her shelter and did something Virginia never expected. He knelt down in the dirt, at her eye level. "Miss Virginia Hill?" She nodded, unable to speak. "My name is Salvatore Russo. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Vito Genovese, the man whose life you saved last night." Virginia's mind raced. She'd heard that name before. Everyone in Little Italy had heard that name. Vito Genovese. The Godfather. The boss. The man FBI agents whispered about. I didn't know who he was. He was dying. "Yes," Salvatore said softly. "He was. And you saved him without knowing who he was, without asking for anything in return. That is why I'm here." Curious onlookers emerged from the shadows. Other homeless people crept back, watching from a distance. Early morning joggers stopped on the bridge above, phones out, recording. Police sirens wailed in the distance, but they didn't come closer. Everyone knew who these men worked for. Salvatore opened his briefcase. Virginia saw stacks of cash, thick stacks of $100 bills. "Mr. Genovese asked me to deliver this to you personally." He pulled out an envelope. Inside, $50,000 in hundreds. Virginia's hands shook so badly she dropped the envelope. Money scattered across the dirty ground like leaves in the wind. "That's not all," Salvatore continued calmly. He pulled out another document. "This is a lease agreement for a one-bedroom apartment in the West Village. Fully furnished. First year's rent paid. It's yours." Virginia stared at the paper, unable to process the words. "And this?" Salvatore handed her a third document. "This is an employment contract with Genovese Imports. You'll be working as a community liaison. Your job is to identify families in need, people who need help with rent, medical bills, food, whatever they need. You'll have a budget of $100,000 per month to distribute as you see fit." I don't understand." "Your salary is $75,000 per year. Full benefits, health insurance, dental, vision. A company car will be provided. And," Salvatore gestured to two men standing nearby, "Marco and Tony will be your personal security detail. They'll be with you at all times." Virginia looked at Marco and Tony, two massive men with expressionless faces and obvious guns under their jackets. "Security? Why would I need?" "Because you're under Mr. Genovese's protection now, and everyone in this city needs to know it." A homeless woman named Rosa, who'd shared her blanket with Virginia on cold nights, stepped forward cautiously. "Virginia, do you know who these people are?" Salvatore stood, brushing dirt from his pants. "Miss Hill, a car is waiting to take you to your new apartment. Your belongings," he glanced at her pitiful backpack, "will be transported. You'll find a complete wardrobe waiting for you. Someone will contact you tomorrow morning with further instructions." "Wait," Virginia said, finding her voice. "Why? Why is he doing this? People don't just, this doesn't happen." Salvatore's expression softened. "Mr. Genovese would like to meet with you personally once he's recovered. He'll explain everything then. For now, just know this. You saw him as a man, not a monster. You treated him with dignity when he was helpless. That is a rare gift, Miss Hill. Rarer than you know." He handed her a business card. "My number. Call me day or night if you need anything." The bodyguards began loading into their vehicles. Virginia stood there, surrounded by $50,000 in cash scattered on the ground, holding documents that promised to change her life, watching an army of suited men prepare to leave. "Miss Hill," Salvatore called from his car. "The black Mercedes. That's yours. Marco will drive you." Then they were gone, the motorcade pulling away. Rosa approached slowly. Virginia, you just made a deal with the devil. I saved a man's life, Virginia whispered. You saved the wrong man's life. And now you belong to him. Marco drove Virginia through Manhattan in complete silence. She sat in the back of the Mercedes, still wearing her dirty clothes, still smelling like the streets, clutching her backpack like it might vanish if she let go. They pulled up to a beautiful brownstone building in the West Village. The kind Virginia used to walk past, dreaming about the people inside. This is home, Marco said. Home. The word felt foreign. The apartment was on the 3rd floor. Hardwood floors gleamed. Exposed brick walls. Huge windows overlooking a tree-lined street. Furniture from magazines. A kitchen with granite countertops and appliances Virginia didn't know how to use. And clothes. An entire closet full in her exact size. How did he know my size? Virginia whispered. Marco almost smiled. Mr. Genovese is very thorough. Virginia walked through in a daze, touching things carefully, afraid she'd break something or wake up. In the bathroom, luxury toiletries, makeup, hair care products. A note on the counter. Take your time. Rest. Recover. Tomorrow, we begin your new life. SR. She turned on the shower. Hot water hit her skin, and she collapsed against the tile, sobbing. For her parents. For the girl she used to be. For all those frozen nights under the bridge. When she emerged, she looked in the mirror. Clean. Safe. Warm. A stranger. But underneath, still that girl from under the bridge. Virginia lay in a real bed, but couldn't sleep. Questions raced. Who is Vito really? What does he want? Is this blood money? What if I say no? At 3 a.m., she stood at the window. A black SUV across the street. Marco inside, watching. Protection? Or surveillance? You belong to him now. At 8 a.m., the phone rang. Miss Hill? This is Salvatore. Did you sleep well? Ah, yes. Thank you. Good. A car will pick you up at 10 a.m. We have much to discuss. Mr. Russo, what does Mr. Genovese actually want from me? A pause. He wants you to be yourself, Miss Hill. The woman who gave her last $5 to save a dying stranger. That's all. He hung up. At 9:55, Virginia chose a simple black dress, professional shoes, a wool coat. She looked like someone who belonged. But underneath, still the girl from the bridge. Marco drove her to a nondescript Tribeca building. Inside, marble floors, expensive art, security guards nodding respectfully. Salvatore's office overlooked the Hudson. He gestured to a leather chair. How are you adjusting? It's overwhelming. I'm grateful but confused. That's honest. He poured coffee. Let me tell you about a boy named Vito who grew up in Sicily. Virginia listened as Salvatore told Elena's story. The 7-year-old girl dying from pneumonia. No money for a doctor. Vito holding her hand as she gasped for air. He made a promise. No one he loved would die because of money. He came to America at 15 with $47 and built an empire. An empire built on crime, Virginia said. Mr. Genovese is not a saint. He's hurt people, broken laws. But he has a code. Family protects family. Always. But I'm not his family. Salvatore leaned forward. The moment you spent your last $5 to save his life, you became family. You reminded him of who he was before the world made him hard. You saw a human being, not a monster. What does he want me to do? Find people who need help. Families struggling with medical bills, rent, food. Give them money. Give them hope. Be the person you needed under that bridge. That's it. That's it. And if I say no, you keep everything and walk away. Mr. Genovese doesn't force loyalty. It's given freely or not at all. Virginia searched his face for the lie. Why me? There are professionals. Because professionals see job descriptions. You see people. You've been invisible, judged, afraid. You have credibility no one else has. And you're good. Truly good. Silence filled the room. Finally, Virginia spoke. When can I start? Salvatore's smile was genuine. Right now. The phone call came at 8 a.m. sharp. Virginia was already awake. Had been for hours, still not used to the softness of the bed or the silence of the apartment. On the streets, there was always noise, sirens, shouting, the constant hum of survival. Here, the quiet felt dangerous, like something waiting to pounce. Miss Hill? This is Salvatore. Did you sleep well? Ah, yes. Thank you. A lie, but a polite one. Good. A car will pick you up at 10 a.m. We have much to discuss regarding your new position. Virginia gripped the phone tighter. Mr. Russo, I need to understand something. What does Mr. Genovese actually want from me? A pause, long enough to make her heart race. He wants you to be yourself, Miss Hill. The woman who gave her last $5 to save a dying stranger. That's all. We'll talk more in person. He hung up before she could ask anything else. At 9:55 a.m., Virginia stood in front of the closet, staring at clothes she still couldn't believe were hers. She chose a simple black dress, modest but elegant, professional shoes that didn't have holes in them, and a wool coat that actually kept out the cold. She looked in the mirror and saw a stranger. A woman who belonged in this apartment. A woman with a future. A woman who mattered. But underneath, she was still the girl from under the bridge. Marco was waiting downstairs with the Mercedes. You look nice, he said. The closest thing to a compliment she'd heard from him. Thank you. They drove through Manhattan, and Virginia watched the city pass by the window. The same streets she used to walk, begging for spare change, invisible to everyone. Now she was inside a luxury car with leather seats and tinted windows. Everything looked different from it. Smaller, less threatening. They pulled up to a nondescript building in Tribeca. No sign, no indication of what was inside. Just another anonymous building in a city full of secrets. Third floor, Marco said, opening her door. Salvatore is waiting. The building's interior was stunning. Marble floors that clicked under her new shoes. Expensive art on the walls. Paintings Virginia recognized from books she'd read in the library during her homeless days. Security guards who nodded respectfully as she passed, like she was someone important. On the third floor, a receptionist greeted her, elegant, middle-aged, kind-faced. Miss Hill, Mr. Russo is expecting you. Right this way. Everyone knew her name. Everyone was expecting her. Virginia didn't know if that made her feel safer or more trapped. Salvatore's office was large and tastefully decorated, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson River. He stood when she entered, gesturing to a leather chair across from his mahogany desk. Please sit. Virginia sat, trying to appear calm, trying not to look like a homeless girl playing dress-up. How are you adjusting? He asked. It's a lot. I'm grateful, but I'm also confused. That's honest. I appreciate honesty. He poured 2 cups of coffee from a silver service that probably cost more than Virginia had made in her entire life. Cream? Sugar? Just black. He slid the cup across his desk. Steam rose between them like a curtain. Let me tell you a story, Miss Hill. A story about a boy named Vito who grew up in a village in Sicily. Virginia wrapped her hands around the warm cup and listened. Salvatore's voice was gentle, almost hypnotic. He told her about Vito Genovese. Born into poverty in Sicily in 1950, son of a fisherman who could barely feed his family. About an 8-year-old boy watching his 7-year-old sister Elena die from pneumonia because they couldn't afford a doctor. She died gasping for air, Salvatore said, his eyes distant. Just like Vito was gasping when you found him on Mulberry Street. You understand now. Virginia did. She understood too well. Vito held Elena's hand while she died. Salvatore continued. He made a promise that day. No one he cared about would ever die because they couldn't afford help. He came to America at 15 with $47 in his pocket and rage in his heart. He built an empire through ruthlessness, yes, but also through loyalty. An empire, Virginia repeated. You mean organized crime? Salvatore didn't flinch. Mr. Genovese is not a saint. He's made decisions most people would consider immoral. He's hurt people, broken laws, destroyed lives. But he has a code. Family protects family. Always. But I'm not his family. That's where you're wrong. Salvatore leaned forward. The moment you spent your last $5 to save his life, you became family. Because you reminded him of who he used to be before the world made him hard. You saw him dying on the street, and you didn't see a monster. You saw a human being who needed help. Virginia set down her coffee cup. Her hands were shaking. What does he want me to do? Exactly what I told you yesterday. Find people who need help. Families struggling with medical bills, rent, food. Single mothers working 3 jobs. Elderly people who can't afford their medication. Give them money. Give them hope. Be the person you needed when you were under that bridge. That's it. That's it. And if I say no? Salvatore smiled sadly. You keep the apartment. You keep the money. You walk away. Mr. Genovese doesn't believe in forcing loyalty. It's given freely or not at all. Virginia stared at him, searching for the lie, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Why me? There are professional social workers, charities, people trained for this. Because professionals ask questions. They have regulations, paperwork, oversight. Mr. Genovese wants to help people the way you helped him, immediately, without judgment, without bureaucracy. And he trusts you because you've been where they are. You know what it's like to be invisible. Silence filled the room. Outside, a boat horn echoed across the Hudson. Finally, Virginia spoke. When can I start? Salvatore's smile was genuine this time. Right now. 1 week after Virginia started her new life, Salvatore called with news that made her stomach drop. Mr. Genovese would like to meet you tomorrow. He's recovered enough for visitors. Virginia gripped the phone. Where? His estate in Alpine, New Jersey. Marco will drive you. 2 p.m. She barely slept that night. The drive to Alpine took 45 minutes. They left the chaos of Manhattan and entered a different world. Massive estates hidden behind iron gates and walls of trees. Marco turned onto a private road. A gate opened automatically. They drove through manicured grounds for 2 minutes before the house came into view. It wasn't just a house. It was a compound. A massive Italian villa with security cameras everywhere, guards patrolling, black SUVs parked in formation. Virginia's hands shook. Marco opened her door. He's not what you expect. What does that mean? You'll see. A woman in her 50s greeted them. Rosa, the housekeeper. Miss Hill? Please, come in. The interior was stunning, but not ostentatious. Tasteful. Old-world elegant. Family photos lined the walls. Black and white images of people in Sicily, children, weddings. Rosa led Virginia to a sunroom overlooking a garden. And there he was. Vito Genovese sat in a leather armchair, wearing a simple gray sweater and slacks. He looked like someone's grandfather. Thin, weathered, with kind eyes that had seen too much. He stood when she entered, moving carefully, still recovering. Virginia. His voice was warm, accented. Thank you for coming. She didn't know what to say. He gestured to the chair across from him. Please sit. Would you like coffee? Tea? No, thank you. They sat in silence, studying each other. Finally, Vito spoke. Do you know why you're here? To meet the man I saved? No. He leaned forward. You're here so I can meet the woman who saved me without asking who I was. Vito stood slowly, walked to a shelf, and picked up a framed photograph. This is Elena, my sister. She was 7 when she died. A little girl with dark curls and a bright smile, holding a doll. Pneumonia, Vito said. In America, she would have lived. But we were poor. In our village in Sicily, poor children died. That's just how it was. His eyes grew distant. I held her hand when she died. She looked at me and said, Vito, I'm cold. Those were her last words. I'm cold. Tears ran down his weathered face. Virginia realized she was crying too. I came to America with $47 and a promise. I would never let anyone I loved die because of money. I would build something that protected people. But the way you built it, Virginia started, was wrong. Yes. He didn't flinch. I've done terrible things, Virginia. I've hurt people. I've broken laws. I've become the monster everyone thinks I am. Then why are you doing this? Why help families? Because Elena deserved better. Because somewhere in this city, there's a little girl like her, dying because her family can't afford medicine. And if I can save even one of them, maybe. His voice broke. Maybe it means something. Redemption? No. I don't believe in redemption. Not for me. But maybe balance. Maybe adding enough good to the scale that when I die, the weight of all those saved lives will mean Elena's death wasn't completely meaningless. Virginia sat back, overwhelmed. Why me? Why not hire someone professional? Vito smiled sadly. Because professionals see job descriptions. You see people. You were homeless, Virginia. You know what it's like to be invisible, to be judged, to be afraid. And most importantly, he met her eyes. You're good. Truly good. The kind of good that doesn't get corrupted. You don't know that. I do. Because you spent your last $5 on a dying stranger when you were starving. That kind of goodness is rare. Silence filled the sunroom. What if I can't do this? Virginia whispered. What if I'm not strong enough? Then you stop. You keep the apartment, the money, and you walk away. I won't hold you to anything, ragazza. This work has to be chosen freely, or it means nothing. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. This was Elena's. I want you to have it." Inside was a delicate gold chain with a St. Christopher medal. "St. Christopher protects travelers," Vito said, standing. "You've been traveling a hard road, Virginia. You deserve protection." He fastened the chain around her neck with gentle, grandfatherly hands. "You saved my life. Let me save yours. Not with money, with purpose. Give your suffering meaning by ending someone else's." Virginia touched the medal. It was warm against her skin. "I'll try," she said. "That's all I ask." As Virginia was leaving, Vito called after her. "Virginia? One more thing." She turned. His expression had changed. Harder. This was the man who built an empire. "There are people who will try to use you. FBI. Rivals. People who want to hurt me. They'll see you as a weakness, a way in. What should I do? Tell them nothing. Trust Marco and Salvatore. And remember, you work for a charity now. That's all. You help families. You don't know about my other businesses. You don't ask questions. You just do good work. And if they don't believe me, they will. Because it's the truth. You are just helping families. Everything else is my burden to carry, not yours." He smiled, grandfatherly again. "Go home, Virginia. Rest. Tomorrow, change more lives." On the drive back to Manhattan, Virginia was silent. Marco finally spoke. "What do you think of him?" "I think." She touched the St. Christopher medal. "I think he's the most dangerous man I've ever met. And maybe the saddest." "That's accurate," Marco said. 3 weeks into her new life, Virginia had settled into a rhythm she never thought possible. She'd helped 47 families. Word was spreading through Little Italy like wildfire. There was a guardian angel walking the streets, backed by Genovese money. She still felt like an imposter in her nice apartment, still startled when she caught her reflection in mirrors wearing professional clothes instead of layers of dirty rags. But she'd found something she'd lost when her parents died: purpose. Every morning, she woke up with a reason to exist. People needed her. For the first time since her father's accident, since her mother's overdose, since becoming invisible on the streets, she mattered. Virginia noticed them on a Tuesday afternoon. 2 men in a plain sedan, following her and Marco through Manhattan. Different men the next day, but always there, always watching. "We're being watched," she told Marco. "We're always being watched," he replied, eyes on the rearview mirror. "They're FBI. Don't worry about it. What do they want? You. But they won't get you." The next day, they made their move. Virginia was meeting with a family in a coffee shop in Soho, the Castellanos. Their 10-year-old son needed heart surgery they couldn't afford. As she slid the envelope containing $15,000 across the table, 2 men in dark suits approached. They flashed badges. "FBI. Miss Virginia Hill? Special Agents Morrison and Chun. We'd like to ask you a few questions." The Castellano family froze, terror in their eyes. "About what?" Virginia asked, keeping her voice steady. "About your employer, Vito Genovese, and the nature of your relationship with his organization." Virginia set down her coffee. "I work for a charity. We help families in need." "A charity funded by organized crime," Agent Morrison said. "You're laundering money for a criminal enterprise. I'm helping a little boy get the heart surgery he needs. If you have a problem with that, arrest me." Agent Chen leaned in. "We don't want to arrest you, Miss Hill. We want your help. You're in a unique position. You have access to Genovese, to his organization. You could provide us with information that could bring down one of New York's most dangerous crime families." Virginia looked at the terrified Castellanos clutching the envelope that would save their son's life. "Could what? Put him in prison? And then what happens to families like this? Who pays for their medical bills then? Who keeps them from being evicted?" "You." Morrison's expression hardened. "You're making a mistake. Genovese is using you. You're a PR move, a way to clean his image while he continues destroying lives. This young woman saved me. She didn't just give me money. She gave me dignity. She gave me the ability to die in my own home, surrounded by memories of my life. That's not just charity. That's love." The room erupted in applause. One by one, people stood and shared their stories. The Rodriguez family, father back at work, children thriving. James Chun, cancer in remission, medical bills paid. Sarah Ahmed, Amira healthy, breathing easy. Each story was a testament to Virginia's work. When they asked Virginia to speak, she could barely get words out. "I was homeless 3 months ago. I was invisible. I was nobody. And then someone saw me. Someone gave me a chance. All I'm doing is passing that along. You're not thanking me. You're thanking each other. Because we're all in this together. She paused, looking around the room at all these faces that had become family. And we're going to help more people. We're going to keep growing this community. Because kindness isn't about money. It's about seeing each other as human beings who deserve dignity and hope. The applause was deafening. Late that night, Virginia sat in her apartment, exhausted but fulfilled in a way she'd never experienced. Her phone rang. Vito, I heard about the dinner. Salvatore said it was beautiful. It was. These people, Vito, they're not broken. They just needed help getting back on their feet. You've done more good in 3 months than I've done in 30 years. That's not true. It is. And Virginia? Be careful. Success attracts attention. Not all of it good. What do you mean? Just be careful. Trust Marco. Trust Salvatore. Trust your instincts. He hung up. Virginia stared at her phone, unease creeping in. Through her window, she saw a car parked across the street. Not one of Vito's. Different. Unfamiliar. Someone sitting inside, watching her building. Someone was watching. And the real battle was just beginning. 6 weeks into her new life, Virginia's work had changed Little Italy. Families who'd been drowning were now breathing. The elderly were staying in their homes. Children were getting medical care they couldn't have afforded otherwise. The community was healing, one family at a time. But there were consequences to everything. Word spread fast in neighborhoods where people had nothing. There was a guardian angel walking the streets of Little Italy, backed by Genovese money. Other neighborhoods heard. Desperate people started showing up at the small office Salvatore had set up for her above an Italian restaurant on Mulberry Street. Every day, dozens of people lined up outside her door, clutching documents with red final notice stamps, eviction papers, medical bills with numbers that made Virginia's stomach turn. All of them hoping for a miracle. Virginia couldn't help everyone. The budget was large, but not infinite. She had to make choices. Which family gets saved today? Which family has to wait? Which family might not make it? These choices haunted her every night. One afternoon, a man came in, Joe Russo, mid-30s, nervous energy radiating off him like heat. I heard you help people with money problems. What do you need help with? Virginia asked, already sensing something wrong. I'm 30 grand in debt. Gambling. I need money to pay it off before they hurt my family. Virginia's instincts screamed. Who's they? Does it matter? Yes, it matters. I help people with legitimate needs, medical bills, rent, food, not gambling debts. But my family. Your family needs you to stop gambling, not a bailout that lets you keep doing it. Virginia's voice was firm. I can help you find a treatment program. I can help your wife with rent and groceries while you get help. But I won't pay your gambling debts. Joe's expression hardened, ugly. You're working for Genovese, and you're going to judge me? I'm judging your choices, not you. There's a difference. He left angry, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. Marco, who'd been standing guard in the corner, said quietly, that was good. Mr. Genovese doesn't like weakness disguised as need. I don't care what Mr. Genovese likes, Virginia said, exhausted. I care about actually helping people. Marco almost smiled. That's why he chose you. 3 weeks later, Sarah Ahmed brought Amira to Virginia's office. The transformation was miraculous. The little girl was breathing easily now, no more wheezing. She'd gained weight, had color in her cheeks, looked healthy and happy and alive. We wanted to thank you in person, Sarah said, her eyes shining. Amira handed Virginia a drawing, a stick figure angel with wings, standing next to a little girl. The angel had yellow hair like Virginia's. The little girl was smiling. That's you, Amira said shyly. You're my angel. Virginia broke down crying right there in her office. She'd been doing that a lot lately. Sarah hugged her, and they stood there crying together, 2 women who'd been drowning, finally able to breathe. You changed our lives, Sarah whispered. I got a promotion at work because I'm not exhausted all the time anymore. Amira's doing better in school. We're okay now. Because of you. After they left, Virginia put the drawing on her office wall. It was the first decoration in the space. Over the next weeks, more drawings arrived. More thank you letters written in shaky handwriting. Photos of families smiling, children playing, elderly couples holding hands on the steps of homes they didn't have to leave. Her office wall became a shrine to second chances. Virginia noticed changes in herself too. She walked with her head up now, making eye contact instead of staring at the ground. She spoke with authority when meeting with families, asking hard questions about how money would be used. She'd gained weight, healthy weight, and her cheeks had color again instead of that hollow gray look of starvation. She laughed, actually laughed at jokes, at silly things, at life. Something she hadn't done since her parents died. One day, she caught her reflection in a storefront window and stopped, stunned. She looked like someone who mattered, someone with purpose, someone alive. Salvatore suggested throwing a community dinner, a way to bring together all the families Virginia had helped. Let them meet each other, he said. Let them see they're not alone in this. They rented out a restaurant in Little Italy. Virginia was nervous. What if no one showed up? What if they were ashamed to be seen together? 70 people arrived. Families she'd helped. Children she'd saved. Elderly people whose lives she'd extended. They brought food despite Virginia insisting everything was provided. They brought gifts, homemade cookies, bottles of wine, more drawings from children who saw her as a superhero. Maria Conti, the elderly widow Virginia had saved from eviction, stood up to speak. Her voice shook, but her words were clear. 3 months ago, I was going to be evicted. I'm 67 years old. I've lived in my apartment for 42 years. I raised my children there. My husband died there. I was going to lose it because I couldn't afford a rent increase. She looked at Virginia, tears streaming down her weathered face. This young woman saved me. She didn't just give me money. She gave me dignity. She gave me the ability to die in my own home, surrounded by memories of my life. That's not just charity. That's love. The room erupted in applause. One by one, people stood and shared their stories. The Rodriguez family, father back at work, children thriving in school. This young woman saved me. She didn't just give me money. She gave me dignity. She gave me the ability to die in my own home, surrounded by memories of my life. That's not just charity. That's love. The room erupted in applause. One by one, people stood and shared their stories. The Rodriguez family, father back at work, children thriving. James Chun, cancer in remission, medical bills paid. Sarah Ahmed, Amira healthy, breathing easy. Each story was a testament to Virginia's work. When they asked Virginia to speak, she could barely get words out. I was homeless 3 months ago. I was invisible. I was nobody. And then someone saw me. Someone gave me a chance. All I'm doing is passing that along. You're not thanking me. You're thanking each other. Because we're all in this together. She paused, looking around the room at all these faces that had become family. And we're going to help more people. We're going to keep growing this community. Because kindness isn't about money. It's about seeing each other as human beings who deserve dignity and hope. The applause was deafening. Late that night, Virginia sat in her apartment, exhausted but fulfilled in a way she'd never experienced. Her phone rang. Vito, I heard about the dinner. Salvatore said it was beautiful. It was. These people, Vito, they're not broken. They just needed help getting back on their feet. You've done more good in 3 months than I've done in 30 years. That's not true. It is. And Virginia? Be careful. Success attracts attention. Not all of it good. What do you mean? Just be careful. Trust Marco. Trust Salvatore. Trust your instincts. He hung up. Virginia stared at her phone, unease creeping in. Through her window, she saw a car parked across the street. Not one of Vito's. Different. Unfamiliar. Someone sitting inside, watching her building. Someone was watching. And the real battle was just beginning. 6 weeks into her new life, Virginia's work had changed Little Italy. Families who'd been drowning were now breathing. The elderly were staying in their homes. Children were getting medical care they couldn't have afforded otherwise. The community was healing, one family at a time. But there were consequences to everything. Word spread fast in neighborhoods where people had nothing. There was a guardian angel walking the streets of Little Italy, backed by Genovese money. Other neighborhoods heard. Desperate people started showing up at the small office Salvatore had set up for her above an Italian restaurant on Mulberry Street. Every day, dozens of people lined up outside her door, clutching documents with red final notice stamps, eviction papers, medical bills with numbers that made Virginia's stomach turn. All of them hoping for a miracle. Virginia couldn't help everyone. The budget was large, but not infinite. She had to make choices. Which family gets saved today? Which family has to wait? Which family might not make it? These choices haunted her every night. One afternoon, a man came in, Joe Russo, mid-30s, nervous energy radiating off him like heat. I heard you help people with money problems. What do you need help with? Virginia asked, already sensing something wrong. I'm 30 grand in debt. Gambling. I need money to pay it off before they hurt my family. Virginia's instinct screamed. Who's they? Does it matter? Yes, it matters. I help people with legitimate needs, medical bills, rent, food, not gambling debts. But my family. Your family needs you to stop gambling, not a bailout that lets you keep doing it. Virginia's voice was firm. I can help you find a treatment program. I can help your wife with rent and groceries while you get help. But I won't pay your gambling debts. Joe's expression hardened. Ugly. You're working for Genovese, and you're going to judge me? I'm judging your choices, not you. There's a difference. He left angry, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. Marco, who'd been standing guard in the corner, said quietly, "That was good. Mr. Genovese doesn't like weakness disguised as need." "I don't care what Mr. Genovese likes," Virginia said, exhausted. "I care about actually helping people." Marco almost smiled. "That's why he chose you." 3 weeks later, Sarah Ahmed brought Amira to Virginia's office. The transformation was miraculous. The little girl was breathing easily now, no more wheezing. She'd gained weight, had color in her cheeks, looked healthy and happy and alive. "We wanted to thank you in person," Sarah said, her eyes shining. Amira handed Virginia a drawing, a stick figure angel with wings, standing next to a little girl. The angel had yellow hair like Virginia's. The little girl was smiling. "That's you," Amira said shyly. "You're my angel." Virginia broke down crying right there in her office. She'd been doing that a lot lately. Sarah hugged her, and they stood there crying together. Two women who'd been drowning, finally able to breathe. "You changed our lives," Sarah whispered. "I got a promotion at work because I'm not exhausted all the time anymore. Amira's doing better in school. We're okay now. Because of you." After they left, Virginia put the drawing on her office wall. It was the first decoration in the space. Over the next weeks, more drawings arrived. More thank you letters written in shaky handwriting. Photos of families smiling, children playing, elderly couples holding hands on the steps of homes they didn't have to leave. Her office wall became a shrine to second chances. Virginia noticed changes in herself too. She walked with her head up now, making eye contact instead of staring at the ground. She spoke with authority when meeting with families, asking hard questions about how money would be used. She'd gained weight, healthy weight, and her cheeks had color again instead of that hollow gray look of starvation. She laughed, actually laughed at jokes, at silly things, at life. Something she hadn't done since her parents died. One day, she caught her reflection in a storefront window and stopped, stunned. She looked like someone who mattered, someone with purpose, someone alive. Salvatore suggested throwing a community dinner, a way to bring together all the families Virginia had helped. "Let them meet each other," he said. "Let them see they're not alone in this." They rented out a restaurant in Little Italy. Virginia was nervous. What if no one showed up? What if they were ashamed to be seen together? 70 people arrived. Families she'd helped. Children she'd saved. Elderly people whose lives she'd extended. They brought food despite Virginia insisting everything was provided. They brought gifts, homemade cookies, bottles of wine, more drawings from children who saw her as a superhero. Maria Conti, the elderly widow Virginia had saved from eviction, stood up to speak. Her voice shook, but her words were clear. 3 months ago, I was going to be evicted. I'm 67 years old. I've lived in my apartment for 42 years. I raised my children there. My husband died there. I was going to lose it because I couldn't afford a rent increase. She looked at Virginia, tears streaming down her weathered face. This young woman saved me. She didn't just give me money. She gave me dignity. She gave me the ability to die in my own home, surrounded by memories of my life. That's not just charity. That's love. The room erupted in applause. One by one, people stood and shared their stories. The Rodriguez family, father back at work, children thriving in school. James Chun, cancer in remission, medical bills paid, able to focus on healing instead of bankruptcy. Sarah Ahmed, Amira healthy, breathing easy, living like a normal kid. Each story was a testament to what one person could do when they decided compassion mattered more than comfort. When they asked Virginia to speak, she could barely get words out through her tears. "I was homeless 3 months ago. I was invisible. I was nobody. And then someone saw me. Someone gave me a chance." She looked around the room at all these faces, faces that had become family. "All I'm doing is passing that along. You're not thanking me. You're thanking each other." Because we're all in this together. She paused, gathering strength. And we're going to help more people. We're going to keep growing this community. Because kindness isn't about money. It's about seeing each other as human beings who deserve dignity and hope. The applause was deafening. People were crying, hugging, laughing. For one night, in one room, the world was exactly as it should be. Late that night, Virginia sat in her apartment, exhausted but fulfilled in a way she'd never experienced before. Her phone rang. Vito, I heard about the dinner. Salvatore said it was beautiful. It was. Virginia smiled into the phone. These people, Vito, they're not broken. They just needed help getting back on their feet. You've done more good in 3 months than I've done in 30 years. That's not true. It is. And Virginia. His voice turned serious. Be careful. Success attracts attention. Not all of it good. What do you mean? Just be careful. Trust Marco. Trust Salvatore. Trust your instincts. He hung up before she could ask more. Virginia walked to her window, looking down at the quiet street below. A car was parked across the street. Not one of Vito's. Different. Unfamiliar. Someone sitting inside, watching her building. Someone was watching. And something told her the real battle was just beginning. Virginia arrived at her office the next morning to find the door ajar. Marco immediately pulled his gun, positioned himself in front of her. Stay here. He disappeared inside. 60 seconds of silence that felt like hours. He came out, his face grim. It's clear, but you need to see this. Her office was destroyed. Desk overturned, legs snapped off. Files scattered across the floor like confetti. The wall of drawings and photos, her shrine to second chances, ripped down, torn to pieces. Children's faces shredded. Thank you letters destroyed. Spray painted across the wall in dripping red letters. Blood money. Mafia whore. Virginia's legs gave out. She sank to the floor among the destroyed memories, among the torn pieces of Amira's angel drawing, among the shredded photographs of families she'd saved. Who did this? She whispered. Could be anyone, Marco said. Rival family sending a message. FBI trying to scare you. Community members who don't like what you represent. Salvatore arrived within minutes, fury blazing in his eyes. This is unacceptable. We'll find who did this. And then what? Virginia looked up at him. Violence. More blood. Protection, Salvatore said carefully, making sure it doesn't happen again. Virginia stared at the spray-painted words. I want to quit. Both men froze. I can't do this anymore. Every time I help someone, I'm painting a target on them. On me. This was supposed to be about giving people hope, not putting them in danger. Salvatore and Marco left her alone to think. Virginia sat in the ruined office for hours, picking up pieces of drawings, trying to put them back together. She couldn't. Her phone rang. Sarah Ahmed. Virginia? I heard what happened. Are you okay? No. I'm thinking about quitting. A long pause. Please don't. Sarah, I'm putting people at risk. You're giving us life. Amira is healthy because of you. 10 other children in this neighborhood are healthy because of you. Mrs. Conti said she wants to live now. For the first time since her husband died, she wants to keep living. Because she has community again. Because she matters. Virginia closed her eyes, tears streaming. But the danger. We're always in danger. Poor people are always in danger. At least now we have someone fighting for us. After Sarah hung up, Virginia sat in the silence. She looked at the spray-painted message, then at a torn piece of Amira's drawing. The angel, ripped but still recognizable. She called Salvatore. I need this office cleaned and repaired by tomorrow. Security doubled. We're not stopping. Are you sure? No. But I'm doing it anyway. 2 days later, a reporter contacted her. Lisa Mendez from the New York Times wanted to do a story about the Genovese charity program. Salvatore advised against it. Media attention is dangerous. But Virginia saw an opportunity. Let people know what we're doing. Let them see the good. The interview took place in her rebuilt office. Lisa was sharp, skeptical. You're distributing money from Vito Genovese, an alleged mob boss. Doesn't that concern you? I'm helping families who need help. Where the money came from isn't my concern. But you're legitimizing a criminal enterprise. I'm feeding hungry children. I'm keeping families housed. I'm paying for medical care. If that legitimizes anything, I'm okay with that trade. Critics say you're just a PR campaign for organized crime. Virginia leaned forward. Critics aren't paying Mrs. Connie's rent. Critics aren't buying Amira Ahmed's asthma medication. Critics aren't saving families from eviction. I am, with money from Vito Genovese. And I'll keep doing it until someone stops me or until no one needs help anymore. Whichever comes first. Lisa studied her. You really believe in this? I believe people deserve help without judgment. I believe compassion matters more than the source of the money. And I believe that in a broken system, sometimes the only people willing to help are the ones everyone else calls criminals. The article ran 3 days later. The New York Times piece went viral. Social media exploded. Hashtag Blood Money Charity trended on Twitter. Half the comments were supportive. She's helping people. Who cares where the money comes from? Half were outraged. She's a mob puppet. This is disgusting. News outlets picked up the story. Virginia's face was everywhere. Think pieces flooded the internet. The moral complexity of mafia charity. When good deeds come from bad people. Is Virginia Hill a hero or a fool? Virginia didn't read most of them. She was too busy working. But backlash came from unexpected places. Some families she'd helped faced harassment. Neighbors accused them of taking mob money. Schools questioned whether their children's new supplies were purchased legally. A family Virginia had helped, the Johnsons, returned the money. We're grateful, Mrs. Johnson said, tears in her eyes. But people are calling us criminals. They're saying we're supporting organized crime. My husband might lose his job. We can't take this money anymore. Virginia was heartbroken. I never meant to hurt anyone. We know. But sometimes help comes with a price we can't afford. After they left, Virginia broke down. I'm making things worse, she told Marco. I thought I was helping, but I'm just creating new problems. Change is always messy, Marco said. The question is whether the help is worth the cost. But something unexpected happened. The families who'd been helped started defending Virginia publicly. Sarah Ahmed wrote an op-ed. I don't care where the money came from. My daughter is alive because of Virginia Hill. Maria Conti gave an interview. Judge me all you want. I'm not homeless. That's what matters. The Rodriguez family created a Facebook group, Families Helped by Virginia Hill. Within days, 200 families joined, sharing their stories. The narrative started to shift. Virginia requested a meeting with Vito. They sat in his sunroom, tea between them. I'm causing problems, she said. The families I help are being harassed. People are calling me a mob puppet. Maybe everyone's right. Maybe I should stop. Vito was quiet for a long time. Then, my sister Elena was 7 when she died. Do you know what her last words to me were? Don't cry, Vito. I'm just going to sleep. He wiped his eyes. I've spent 50 years trying to make that death mean something. I've built an empire. I've accumulated power and wealth. I've hurt people, broken laws, destroyed families. And none of it, has ever made me feel like Elena's death mattered. He looked at Virginia. But you? In 3 months, you've saved more souls than I have in 50 years. And yes, people are angry. Yes, there's backlash. Yes, it's complicated and messy and morally gray. But those children who are breathing, those families who aren't homeless, those elderly people who can die with dignity, they don't care about the complexity. They care that someone saw them and helped. So I should continue? Only if you can live with the cost. Because it will cost you. It's already costing you. The question is whether what you're building is worth what you're sacrificing. Virginia touched the St. Christopher medal around her neck. I don't know if it's worth it, she admitted. But I know I have to try. Vito smiled. Then you're stronger than me. Because I always knew what I was building. You're building something you can't even name yet. 6 months later, Virginia stood in her office. Now expanded, now busy with volunteers, now decorated with hundreds of photos and drawings from families she'd helped. She'd helped 200 families, kept 50 kids in school, prevented 30 evictions, paid for 15 surgeries, given hope to countless people who'd lost it. The FBI still watched her. The media still debated her. Critics still called her a mob puppet. But the families kept coming, and she kept helping. On a cold March afternoon, a teenage girl walked into Virginia's office. Maybe 16, thin, dirty, wearing layers of clothes. Terrified. Are you Virginia Hill? Yes. How can I help you? I'm homeless. I heard you help people. Virginia's heart stopped. She saw herself in this girl. What's your name? Jasmine. Sit down, Jasmine. Tell me your story. The story poured out. Abusive foster home, running away, living on the streets for 3 months, prostituting herself to eat, trying to survive. Virginia listened, hand over her mouth. tears streaming. When Jasmine finished, Virginia came around the desk and hugged her. "You're safe now. I'm going to help you." She called Salvatore. "I need a safe house today," and a social worker who specializes in teenage runaways. Within hours, Jasmine was in a clean apartment with food, clothes, and a plan. As Virginia was leaving, Jasmine asked, "Why are you helping me? You don't know me." Virginia touched her St. Christopher medal. "Because someone helped me when I had nothing. Now I'm paying it forward." That evening, Virginia stood outside Grand Central Station after a fundraiser, wearing an elegant dress representing the work she'd built from nothing. She saw a young man sitting against the wall, shivering, holding a cardboard sign. "Homeless. Anything helps." She stopped. The world kept moving around her, but she was frozen in time, remembering. She walked over, sat down next to him on the cold concrete. "What's your name?" He looked startled. "David." "Hi, David. I'm Virginia." She pulled out a $100 bill. "This is for food. But more importantly," she handed him a business card. "This is for hope. When you're ready for something better, call this number. We'll help you." "Why?" he asked, the same question she'd once asked. "Because someone helped me when I had nothing. Now I'm paying it forward." As she walked away, she looked up at the stars barely visible in New York's light-polluted sky. She thought about Elena, dead at 7. About her father, dying in her arms. About all the pain that led to this moment. And she realized, suffering isn't meaningless. It's just waiting for someone brave enough to transform it into love. Marco pulled up in the black car. "Home, Miss Hill." She smiled. "Yes, home. Tonight." The girl who spent her last $5 on a dying stranger had become the woman who saves the world, $5 at a time.